to be a human being, to be respected as a human being, to be given the rights of a human being in this society, on this earth, in this day, which we intend to bring into existence by any means necessary. Malcolm X was a man of great conviction. He found the strength to rise above while so many stayed pushed down by oppression. It was through his pride of family and community that he was able to reach out to others who needed help, to be the voice for others, to show that there was a better way. It was his voice that inspired others to stand up, letting their own voices be heard. Today, Roberto is going to tell you why we chose Malcolm X and his speech, The Ballot or the Bullet. Roselle will explain to you the significance it holds, and I will explain the communication processes used. And lastly, Roselle will share with you how this speaker had the ability to not only inspire so many people long ago, but us as well. We will first start off by Roberto giving you a brief history of Malcolm X and why we chose the speech, The Ballot or the Bullet.
In the course of human history, there will always be change. In order to bring about change, there must be something that is controversial, that can break people away from the normal routine they have accustomed to. Few people can rise to the amount of attention needed to fuel that controversy. Malcolm X was one of that few people. What Malcolm X was going to do would die trying to achieve that attention. Earl Little was a black Baptist minister to avoid civil rights activists. On May 1925 in Omaha, Nebraska, Earl and his wife Louise gave birth to Malcolm Little. Malcolm was a victim of prejudice from day one. Before the time Malcolm was 4, his family had to relocate twice to avoid death threats from the white supremacists regarding Earl's civil rights activism. Malcolm's family attempts to avoid impending violence were unsuccessful. In 1929, their Lansing, Michigan home was burned to the ground. The police rolled the fire an accident. The family was able to battle through until 1931, when Earl's body was found laying across the town's trolley track. The police also ruled it an accident. Shortly after, Louis suffered an emotional breakdown and was hospitalized. Malcolm X then went into foster care. Malcolm too proved to be a strong child and graduated at the top of his class in middle school. Strangely, Malcolm's future was further altered when his favorite teacher told him that his dream of becoming a lawyer was, I quote, "no realistic goal for a nigger." Dismayed, Malcolm dropped out of school and spent time in Boston working various jobs. He traveled to Harlem, where he organized narcotics, prostitution, and gambling rings. He eventually was arrested in Boston and sentenced to 7 years. He used this time to further his education. It was then Malcolm was intrigued by the Muslim religion. This is when he changed his last name to X and became a national spokesman. Malcolm X has been described as one of the greatest and most influential African Americans in history. He is credited with raising the self-esteem of black Americans and reconnecting with them with their African heritage. He is largely responsible for the spread of Islam in the black community in the U.S. Many African Americans, especially those who lived in cities in the northern and western U.S., felt that Malcolm X articulated their complaints concerning inequality better than the mainstream civil rights movement did. One biographer says that by giving expression to their frustration, Malcolm X, I quote, made clear the price that white America would have to pay if it did not accede to black America's legitimate demands. In the late 1960s, as black activists became more radical, Malcolm X and his teachings were part of the foundation on which they built their movements. The Black Power movement, the Black Arts movement, and all trace their roots to Malcolm X. In 1964, Malcolm X gave a speech entitled The Ballot or the Bullet, which described how African Americans should fight for civil rights in America. With that said, I now hand it over to Giselle.
Malcolm X's speech, The Ballot or the Bullet, was given on April 3rd, 1964 in Cleveland, Ohio. It was a persuasive speech telling the African community to fight for their rights and equality. It's a call for black unity against white supremacy. In this speech, he tries to persuade his audience by saying that blacks were not American citizens, that they were just Africans living in America. He says, being here in America does not make you an American. Being born here does not make you an American. Why? If birth made you American, you wouldn't need any legislating. You wouldn't need any amendments to the Constitution. You wouldn't be faced with civil rights filibustering in Washington, D.C. right now. Malcolm does not make himself superior to his audience. He says, no, I'm not an American. I'm one of the 22 million black people who are victimized of Americanism. One of the 22 million black people who are victimized of democracy. Nothing but disguised hypocrisy. So I'm not standing here speaking to you an American or a patriot or a flag saluter or a flag waver. No, not I. I'm speaking as a victim of the American system. And I see America through the eyes of a victim. I do not see an American dream, I see an American nightmare. Malcolm spoke to his people with love, with motivated black rage. Joe Wood stated in his book, Malcolm X and Our Own Image, that Malcolm spoke love to black people. He believed that love, that motivated black rage, that had to be felt by black people in order for the rage to take on institutional forms. As well, that the love would produce a physical conversion in black people, and they will affirm themselves as human right, being no longer viewing for bodies, minds, and soul through white lenses, but believing themselves capable of taking their own control into their own destinies. He also attacks the government by saying that they get the black votes, but they did not keep their promises to the black community. In this speech, he tells his audience that it is the year when all the white crooks will be right back in our community.